Welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. My guest is a former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, an economist, and is taking a shot at the presidential seat for a second time, Professor Kingsley Moghalu. Prof, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let me begin by first saying that you have a very commendable, easy to navigate website.
Oh, thank you.
We don't find that. We don't find that all the time.
Thank you very much.
You are very well known for having conversations on national issues, especially regarding economics or the economy of the country. But today we will be talking largely politics, basically because you want to be president again. Now, the first question I'll ask you is this: should we now refer to you as a politician, or are you still a technocrat?
I'm a political leader with technocratic knowledge and competence.
How do you combine?
That's what Nigeria needs.
How do you combine them? It's really difficult to have that kind of balance in this country. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yes, because you find in Nigeria that many people who are in politics are career politicians. They live off politics. Their survival depends on being in politics. That's not the kind of politician I am. I have an independent means of livelihood, but I am a politician with a vision. You also find some people who are technocrats. They stay out of politics. I was that person when I was deputy governor of the central bank or in my previous career in the United Nations and things like that. But you see, I realized something later. Technocrats cannot fix the economy or politics of any country. It is the competence or incompetence of the political leaders that determines whether any country makes progress, creates wealth for its citizens, takes its citizens out of poverty, ensures security, that sort of thing. The reason is this: you can have a team of technocrats who may be all very brilliant, but if the political leadership is not aligned to that level of competence, it will make a mess of all their recommendations because maybe the leader just doesn't understand the issue, or maybe because the leader is serving vested interests. That's why, for me, I realized that the path to Nigeria's progress lies with having competent political leadership with technocratic knowledge and background. If you look at the problem our economy is having today, you will see that this is what is required from 2023 forward.
Very well then. Now you left the YPP in 2019, and that was just after you lost the election. It wasn't really clear why you did that. In your response, you wanted to engage in some form of advocacy for electoral reform through the non-partisan citizens movement to build a nation. That's TBAN.
Yes.
When you said you wanted to focus on that, a lot of people questioned whether you were quitting politics at the time, and it seemed like that was the actual thing that you were doing. But then again, some did say that it wasn't okay for you to walk away from a political party that gave you a platform at the time. Was there any rancor in the party at the time when you left, or was it strictly because you wanted to, in quote, quit politics?
I didn't want to quit politics. My participation in the elections in 2019 taught me some important things. Centrally, Nigeria's votes and the votes of Nigerians did not count in the 2019 elections. I recognize this. We did not have enough funding to protect our votes around the whole country. And so, if you believe that I had 22,000 votes in the presidential election, you should go and see a psychiatrist, because that is not what happened. You see what I'm saying? So I realized this. I mean, I'm not saying I defeated Buhari or Atiku. No. But clearly, the votes we got were not, by by a very distant margin, were not reflected. So, it occurred to me that if you are going to continue in this business, this matter of electoral reform is job number one, because the votes must count. So I decided that I should focus my energies on a campaign from a non-partisan point of view for electoral reform before the next electoral cycle. That's what I did. And we have seen the result, because working with several other civil society organizations and other interests around the country and around the world, we have been able to obtain a new Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which we are hoping that President Buhari will sign very soon, and which will guide the 2023 elections. That would be a huge improvement on what happened in 2019. So that was the main reason I left. Also, in a political party, some things happen. There was no real rancor, but there are certain issues of principle to me that I cannot compromise. You see, I'm a politician, but I'm a politician with a conscience, a politician with purpose. There's a reason I'm in politics, which is to improve the lives of the common man in Nigeria. That's really, for me, what drives me. I'm not in politics to enrich myself. I'm not in politics for the usual games that, many people play. So if situations arose that I felt, were not, could not be repaired or fixed, then as a matter of principle, you can walk away.
Okay,
That's
let me take you back to your statement on the 2019 elections, which
Yes.
you said was not fairly conducted. You clearly said the votes didn't count.
Yes.
Now, that's a normal conversation, a normal statement from a politician who has lost an election. However, you spoke like you had some kind of fact to the fact that the votes that were presented at the 2019 elections did not count. Was it just your vote, or you think the entire process was flawed?
I think the entire process was flawed, and even the report of the International Electoral Observers said so. So it's not Kingsley Moghalu saying. It's a verified, observation from so many quarters that the elections were very, very flawed. And the international observers made even reference to the 2015 elections as having been better conducted than the 2019 elections. So, these are things that we all know. Now, having said that, I believe that INEC, as I see them today, I feel the chairman and his colleagues are trying to create a much better conduct of elections in 2023. The fruit of the pudding is in the eating. But at least I recognize an effort to do better. And that also is obvious from their support for the Electoral Act Amendment Bill and the provision, for electronic transmission of votes.
Are you convinced that the Electoral Act Amendment Bill as it is now serves the purpose, taking into cognizance the direct and indirect primary method of party primaries? Yes.
Well, you see, the matter of the direct and indirect primaries, the new bill that is being put up now, which from what I see, will make provision for whether direct, indirect, or consensus. I think that would be better, because it's not ideal to circumscribe the possibilities for political parties in choosing their candidates.
Well, you support the consensus option?
Why not? If a political party wants to go that way, what's wrong with that?
Well, then there are questions as to how this consensus candidate will emerge if it will not be in position by the leadership of these political parties at some point. And that's why you find that the House of Representatives has chosen to stick to just direct and indirect option.
Look, at the end of the day, whatever the law comes out, we will follow it. But in leadership and in politics, consensus is also an option. Yes.
All right, let's go to the reason why you have now decided to join the ADC.
Yeah. Well, when I left the YPP, I did not join any political party for 2 years. And I did that deliberately, because I wasn't doing what the Nigerian normal politician does, of shuffling between party and party, for no other reason than just pecuniary interest or mercantile interest. So because that was not the reason I left the party, I left on a ground of principle, which I explained to you, partly or majorly, the matter of electoral reform, and also other issues that was a matter of principle, or were a matter of principle for me. I felt it was better to withdraw myself a little bit from partisan politics. Now, 2 years later, in October last year, I joined the African Democratic Congress. The African Democratic Congress I studied the party very carefully. Since 2005, I believe, when the party was formed, it's not a new party, by the way, but it's been a grassroots party. In the last election, they came fourth, so they have been a serious party. It's not as big as the APC or the PDP, but they are a grassroots-oriented party.
You accept the fourth position, which they bagged in that election.
That what?
You accept the fourth position, which they bagged in that election, which you claim was flawed?
Well, yes. I mean, that's the report we got. So we're going by, the official report. But they are also a party that is interested in ideas. So the combination of the grassroots approach with a respect for ideas and the ability of ideas to drive human progress, for me, was a very good combination. And if you noticed that all their presidential candidates have been intellectuals, whether it was their first candidate, Pat Utomi, or their last candidate in 2019, Dr. Obadiah Mailafia. But there is a gap that needs to be bridged, and that is to bridge the gap between intellect, vision, and practical politics of winning elections on the ground. So that's the future for us, and we will get there.
Let's talk about your future now.
Yes.
It's your second successive attempt at the
presidency.
#1 seat in the country. Why have you decided to recontest this election, considering your performance in the 2019 elections? Even though you reject that result, why have you decided to recontest this election?
Well, because I believe that 2023 is a pivotal election for Nigeria's future. It will be the first election for a while in which there is no incumbent on the presidential seat. Therefore, the playing field is perhaps a little bit more level than in 2019. In 2019, there was another reality on the ground, that it was still the turn, quote unquote, of the North to hold on to the presidency, whether in the form of the incumbent President Buhari or in the form of the major challenger, Atiku. In 2023, there is a consensus that the next president of Nigeria should come from the South, in line with the informal power rotation that takes place given the unique circumstances of Nigeria. So there are many factors in 2023 that did not exist in 2019, which will favor me as a candidate, hopefully a candidate. So, this is, and of course the issues haven't gone away. The poverty hasn't gone away. The unemployment hasn't gone away. These are still fundamental problems. And the passion that I have to serve our country as its leader, I want to serve by leading. And I want to serve by leading with a vision, a purpose, and with competence and capacity. I believe that 2023, the battle is going to be between the future and the past.
What did you learn from 2019 that may change for you and swing, hopefully, in your direction, the presidential seats in 2023?
In 2019, I learned two things. One, grassroots organization and mobilization is important in politics. Because it was my first attempt, we did not do it, and the presidency is a huge endeavor. We did not do it as effectively as we should have. Second is that money matters in politics. So both are important lessons. And for me, when we are talking about money, I'm not talking about money to be buying bags of rice and beans and distributing to the whole of Nigeria. That kind of money will fail in 2023 because the fundamental issues Do we want a modern 21st century competent president, or do we want the old, corrupt, recycled politicians? Nigerians, increasingly, between 2019 and now, as 2023 is approaching, you can see, you can feel it in the air that many people are rejecting the old order. Many people. And so this is an improvement. In 2019, the elections reflected where Nigerians were at that time. They were not yet ready for fundamental political change. In 2023, they may. It's our job as the candidates, hopefully, to educate them to see why this change is essential and necessary.
Well, when you talk, I'd ask you anyway, if you have both, if you have that grassroots mobilization under your grasp now, or if you have the money as well.
Good question. We are working on both because we recognize that we're not competitive without either. So we're building a ground game now. As I speak to you, we have cells in many communities across virtually all the states of Nigeria. I believe that within the next 3 months, we will be strongly represented in every voting polling unit in this country. That's a huge difference between our organization for 2023 and what happened in
What I'm curious about is your grassroots mobilization in relation to the ADC. The ADC is an entirely popular party in the Southeast.
We have a year to the elections. Yeah? The election is not tomorrow morning. There is time, and we are organizing to make ourselves as popular as is necessary to win the election.
But are you not concerned?
Yes.
I mean, the lesson everyone would have thought you would learn is smaller parties stand lesser chances of winning that election. Are you not concerned about that?
No, I'm not concerned about that because, you see, I recognize that the APC and the PDP have very different views of Nigeria and leadership from what I have. So my business, being a serious political leader who wants to win, is to find an alternative way to organize to win. Our memories are very short. In 2012 and 2013, the PDP said, they boasted, we're the largest party in Africa. We will govern this country. They used the word rule, which is anathema to me. But that's what they said, that they would rule Nigeria for 60 years. 2 years later, they were out of power. Why? Because a new coalition came into place and managed to displace them. We are working on a new coalition of several political parties. That's the difference. We're forming a coalition that is going to win. And that coalition will represent the interest of the young people of this country, the interest of the masses, and we will educate them to see that their interest aligns with this new coalition of several parties, which is going to merge into a mega party. You know, so this is where we are going. It happened before, but that was an alliance of politicians.
Exactly. So I was going to draw.
We are going to form an alliance of the people.
I was going to draw you to that because we recall that in 2019 there was some sort of coalition conversation going on, which you pulled out from.
Yes,
exactly. And
because there were irregularities.
We had the likes of Tokwe Fashua, Toladuru Toye, all come together to say let's form this, but that didn't work because of a clash of interests.
Yes. Let me explain to you, please. What happened in 2019 is very different from what we're trying to do now. What we're trying to do now is a negotiation and a discussion between political parties. In 2019, it was individuals and personalities trying to come together, and it didn't work. I pulled out, yes, no apologies, and I pulled out because there were some irregularities, and I'm a person of principle. You need to understand this. I'm not an anyhow, anything goes type of person. I'm pragmatic. You know, I'm practical, but there are certain lines that I will not cross, period. And I have no apologies to offer. So the fact that I pulled out is a statement of my principle. It's not an indictment on me. Some people would pretend it is, but no. But that was a very different type of discussion. This is a far more mature process, a discussion between political parties about merging or going into an alliance, which is what it should have been in 2019. And some of us made that argument that this thing is moving too fast. Let's wait until the parties bring up their candidates and let there be a discussion between parties. But some people, we're just pushing forward based on certain interests.
I like to think that you're hopeful that when that conversation comes up, that you emerge. But then let me ask you
That's
this.
certainly my hope.
Let me ask you this
yeah.
question. Is your confidence...
But I want to make it very clear. For me, it's not all or nothing. The third force must come together, and come together based on a vision and a principle. I am simply a humble member of that coalition. And if the coalition honors me by selecting me as its candidate, I will accept it and, appreciate it, knowing that I will be representing that coalition, not myself.
And I think you're also hopeful that a coalition takes into cognizance the calls for power to shift to the South.
Well, the coalition is made up of many people who believe that the stability of this country should be primary. Equity, justice, and fair play should be primary. And therefore, based on that, of course, there are many people who would prefer an outcome where political leadership in 2023 comes from the southern part of the country.
But is your decision to throw your hat back in the ring now after quitting politics in 2019 based on the conversation making the rounds now that power should shift to the South?
No.
Specifically Southeast?
No.
But do you have a confidence that pointing in that direction that it could be you?
Let me explain. I believe that I am as good as anybody in this country, North or South, to be president of Nigeria. I believe I have what it takes. The basis of my seeking the presidency is not my ethnic identity. It's not my religion. It's not coming from the South or coming from the North. The basis of my wanting to be president is the vision I have and the capacity I have to deliver on that vision and my commitment to my country. I'm not an ethnic politician. I have never been. Why did I run in 2019 when many people felt the thing still belonged, quote unquote, to the northern part of the country? When I was campaigning in the North, many Northerners told me, we like you, but the politics of this country, there are certain realities. The president for now has to come from the North. But if you come back in 2023, when it will be, quote unquote, your turn, this is what Nigerians from the northern part were telling me. We would love to look at you. So they were saying that they recognize the informal arrangement. And in 2023, that informal arrangement will give you or your part of the country the equity. That's what they were telling me. I did not accept it, but it was the reality. So that's part of the experience one has gained in politics.
Well, from the Southeast, you're going to go against quite a number of political heavyweights. You have Senator Rochas Okorocha, who wants to be president. You have Senator Ojus Okalu. You have Ayin Pius, former Senate president. You have former Governor Peter Obi, and quite a number of people. What chance do you stand against people like this?
Well, first of all, I never comment on competitors in the political sphere. It is their right, the right of any aspirant to aspire. It is also my right to aspire. And I am not seeing myself in reference to people from a particular part of the country. I'm seeing myself vis-a-vis the whole of Nigeria and all the people who may want to aspire to the position. So let Nigerians look at us. Look at our profile, look at our track records, look at our vision, look at our capacity, and make a decision. That's the way I'm approaching politics. And that's why I am appealing mostly, I'm appealing to all Nigerians, but I have particular emphasis on the youth, the young people who have been shortchanged. Most of the traditional politicians in this country have not shown that they care about young people. But it is their future that is our future. They're 67% of the population. You cannot discuss the future of Nigeria if you're not discussing the future of the youth. So it should be the number one thing. But you find that in many of the traditional established political parties and the traditional established politicians, this is the last thing on their mind.
So what's your bargain to get the youths on your side?
Engaging them. That process is on. engaging them, talking to them, and coming out with ideas, specific ideas about what, as president of Nigeria, I will do to make their future better. I've released a 7-point plan. It is on record and it is there. Anybody can look at it, and I'm sharing it, I'm distributing it so that people know what my thinking is. I'm not in politics just for, look, I'm a different type of politician, and I offer no apologies. See, sometimes it's a strategy is differentiation. If you think you will win by being same, of all that has not worked in Nigeria, then you should be ashamed of yourself, quite frankly. But that's not where I am. I want to make things better. So there are some things I will accept as realities, but there are some things I will accept as no, I will not do this.
I was hoping that you'd be a little more detailed with your plans for the youth.
Of course, I can tell you if you want.
Please go ahead.
Oh, of course. I mean, when we are talking about the youth of Nigeria, first of all, my plan is to establish a temporary unemployment support facility for young people for 6 months to 1 year who graduate from universities or tertiary institutions, but they have no jobs. We will give them support, but on the condition that they go through skills training while that support program is on to prepare themselves to create new jobs for themselves. Secondly, we are going to create a venture capital fund, 1 trillion naira minimum capital, minimum. It could go up to 5 trillion, can go up to, it doesn't matter. That fund will not be run by the government. Hear me clearly, because every program that is run by the government becomes an opportunity for sleaze. It will be run by the private sector. The government will put in 500 billion as an investor. The private sector can put in 500 billion or more, but it will be run by the private sector. That fund will give young people equity capital to start new businesses. It will train them with new skills, and that fund will finance innovation. The products of innovation, we need to pipeline them into the market. There is no such system today. And I believe in an innovation economy. That's the kind of economy I'll drive as president.
Not even what the federal government has in place.
What do they have in place?
Empower and the other youth empowerment programs to
I do not believe
take 100 million people out of poverty.
But since between 2016 and now, 30 million people have become poorer. So, rhetoric is a different thing from results. So I do not believe that those programs they have in place are doing what they should be doing. And there are many allegations about corruption going on.
So that's your position, is that the plan of the federal government or this administration to take 100 million people out of poverty,
it's a pipe dream.
Has not only failed, but it's not achievable.
It's not achievable because it is an incompetent plan. You cannot, mouthing a slogan is not the same thing as doing it. What's your track record of creating wealth? What is the track record of this administration when 30 more million people have become poorer in the last 5 years? We have 100 billion people now who are extremely poor. You see, you don't create wealth if you don't understand economics, if you don't understand the markets. How many competent economists are in the government today? You have a cabinet that when it was formed, I don't know about now, there was no economist in it. Clearly showing that there's no importance attached to that area of knowledge. How can you make people's lives better if you don't know how to create wealth? The second thing is that this government is trying to be a welfarist government without creating the wealth for welfare. You must first create wealth before you can redistribute it. You cannot say that you're attending to the welfare of people, but you're busy borrowing. And 90 kobo or 97 kobo in 2020 out of 1 naira that the federal government earned was spent paying back foreign debts. That's an insolvent. If you were an individual, you would be insolvent. So a government that is operating on this basis cannot take 100 million people out. They can't even take 1 million people out of poverty, not to talk about 100. So let's come to serious discussions. I am a serious economic thinker. I have a track record of economic management that has been successful as a deputy governor of the central bank at a time when our economy was doing better. And in all the areas of the central bank's responsibility, we performed splendidly. We brought inflation down from double digits to 8% before we left office. Today, where is inflation? As deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, I led the team that developed and introduced the bank verification number, the BVN, and various other policies that created the room for enabling environment for the growth of the fintech industry in Nigeria today, which is exploding. I supervised the reforms of the Nigerian banking sector, stabilizing the banks, saving the financial system from collapse. The system I supervised, the banking system, was worth 17 trillion naira in assets. The federal government doesn't have that budget, not to talk about a state. So the consequence of error that I have had in terms of my executive responsibility, the record is there. So when I'm speaking about an economic direction, an economic plan, I am informed, I'm educated, I'm competent, I'm capable, I have the track record.
Where do women come in your ambition?
Huge. No country can make progress without its women. Women are about half of the population of this country, and yet we treat them as if they're nothing. There are so many structural obstacles to women. Legal obstacles, cultural obstacles, policy obstacles. As president of this country, I will bring about gender equity in a structural way. We will promote cultural attitude change towards women. We will improve the laws. We will give women and embed them in, not tokenism. I don't believe in tokenism. I will tell you that half of my cabinet will be women. Yes, that's my aspiration. But it's not going to end there, because you will be there for 4 years or 8 years and leave. If the next person comes doesn't care about women, maybe 10% will be women, which is what we had. We had a president that aspired to 35% of the cabinet being women, and then a president that had only 6 or 7% came afterwards. So I'm more interested in the embedded attitude changes. And that cannot happen without getting the men. The men are very critical in the struggle for gender equity, because they are the ones who hold the societal power broadly that is keeping women down. We must speak to the men first.
Is your presidential ambition sacrosanct, or are there options of, say, if the coalition or the conversation begins to tilt towards giving someone from the Southeast the position of the vice president, would you be open to taking that offer?
Look, in politics, you can never say never in politics, So I've also learned and I have grown in politics. So you have to be flexible, you have to be pragmatic, but you still have to have a core of what your principles are. So I don't, I'm not here to rule in or rule out things.
But
I'm running for president.
Yes, but you were quite specific in 2019 when you said that the Igbos should liberate themselves from that second fiddle position.
Of course.
Of vice president.
Of course.
And should stick to trying to get the number one position.
That's why I'm running for president. You see?
Well, here you are, open to being vice president if the option comes.
Listen, I didn't say I am looking to be vice president. I said in politics, you have to be open-minded, period. That's all I'm saying. I'm not telling you, I have not made any specific commitment about what I myself will do. I'm running for president, period. If not, if I wasn't serious about being president of Nigeria, I can go and join the PDP or the APC and settle for something less. Do you understand what I'm saying? Then I'm looking out for myself. But I'm doing this not for myself, but for the Nigerian people. Not because of where I come from, but because of the vision I have and the capacity I believe I have to execute that vision and take this country into the 21st century, which is where we need to be. We're still in the 19th century in many ways.
With your level of knowledge and expertise and how far you've been able to impact the sectors that you've worked in, even including the United Nations, many have said that you should have at least considered the option of being a governor to bring some form of development to your state. Why have you chosen to contest
for the presidency?
For the presidency?
We all have our interests in life. And we have a saying in Igbo, and I'll translate it into English. Something that a child has grown up to having is not greed. And I'll say it in Igbo. Ife nwata tolulo goya aburo usa. I am qualified, exposed, experienced enough to be a very good president of Nigeria. If that happens to be what my interest is, why not? If you look at Nigeria, you will see that what this country is looking for is that leadership at the top that is transformational. It will cascade down to every part of the country. That's what I believe I can provide. You see, by the way, also, there are many competent people who are positioned to be governors of states. Some of them have run. Some of them have been successful. So I must not run for governor if my interest is to run for the presidency. And I am qualified, more than qualified, many people would say, to be president of Nigeria. Let me finish. There is a very important point I want to make. What are the functions of the president of Nigeria? There are 4 core functions: national security, nation building, the economy, and foreign affairs. Go and read my CV and see whether there is anybody in the race who matches my credentials in these 4 areas. In the United Nations, I was involved in international peace and security operations, including counterterrorism operations, management. Do you understand? Many people don't know this about me, but as we come out, our track records will become open and we will explain it. Nation building. Hold on. Nation building. Building a nation, unifying this country, managing diversity, building institutions. As a United Nations official, as a leader in the UN, I managed diverse races, not just ethnic groups, religions, nationalities. And I have done that as a central bank, a senior leader in the central bank also, whether it's Hausas, Yorubas, Igbos, minorities, whatever. The economy, I don't need to talk about my credentials. Foreign affairs, 17 years in the United Nations in international diplomacy. So the reason Nigeria's presidents, many of them who are seeking for this leadership, don't perform when they get there. They may be governors, but in our traditional paradigm, we think that you have to be a governor to be a president. Some of them get there, they're out of their depth. Because the functions of a governor are not foreign affairs. They're not managing the national economy. They are not nation building. Many governors are governors of small mono-ethnic groups. Do you know, right from when I was deputy governor of the central bank, I was being pressured to come and run for governor of Anambra State. I said no. Because even though I love my state, it's not what is coming from my stomach that is what I want to do. I'm not somebody who's pushed around by other people. No, not at all. Nothing wrong in being governor. It's a great responsibility. But if it's not what you want to do, it's not what you want to do. Why do you have to force yourself to do it? Or allow yourself to be forced to do it? So you go and then you fail because your heart was not in it. Do you see the point? There are many, I have helped my state in many other ways. You can help in many ways without being governor. I have made my contributions to Anambra State. Very, very significant contributions. I can tell you that.
You talked about the powers of the president and how impactful the president is or needs to be on the economy of any country. When you look at the economy of the country right now, would you say that what we lack is a willing leader or a lack of understanding of a leader to assemble a good team to move the country forward?
Technocrats can never reform the economy of any country if the political leader is incompetent, or if that political leader is serving vested interests. So what we need is the political leadership that, first of all, understands the economy, has a vision for it, and has the capacity to execute that vision. And part of executing that vision means putting the right team together. I'm going to put a dream team together to run the Nigerian economy. I'm not going to do it alone because nobody does it alone. 70% of a leader's success is based on the team. And I will be focusing on establishing a very strong team.
So this administration has been clear for quite a while on how it intends to diversify revenue generation and has turned to agriculture. As a former deputy governor of the central bank, do you commend the administration, also considering the kind of inputs that the central bank is having now? I don't think the central bank during your time was as involved in issues of agriculture as much as it is now, even though many have questioned why the federal government is carrying out these kinds of interventions instead of the ministries.
So should it now be the Central Bank of Agriculture? Is that what a central bank ideally should be? Let me answer your question. This government has no idea. They don't even have the faintest clue about how to diversify an economy. What is economic diversification? What is structural economic transformation? It means a movement away from agriculture in terms of its contribution to the GDP towards value-added industrial manufacturing and services for export. The reason we're in the economic mess we are is because Nigeria is not a productive economy. Agriculture is important. Don't get me wrong. It is important for self-sustainability in terms of food supply. But that doesn't mean that it has to become 20, 30% of the GDP like today. It can be 5% of the GDP, whereas industrial manufacturing, innovation, services, those things increase. That's when you know that an economy is becoming sophisticated. So this emphasis on farming, I believe, is not the right emphasis. The emphasis in agriculture should be on creating a value chain of agriculture that makes agriculture part of our industrialization process. One value chain, cultivation. Another value chain, transportation of agricultural products. Another value chain, storage. Another value chain, processing. Another value chain, exports. This is what we should be doing, but that's not what's going on. So and what do? You get investors to invest in each of these 5 value chains in agriculture. Then you know that even the agricultural sector itself is becoming part of a diversified and industrialized economy.
You fault the Central Bank of Ghana?
I'm not faulting the central bank, I'm faulting the government of Nigeria. So let me be very clear. I'm faulting the government, I'm faulting the political leadership. That's the point. They are responsible.
Allowing the central bank to get involved.
Or for persuading or pressuring the central bank into, losing focus of what its main mandate ought to be. Your description of the central bank, when you started this question, one could be mistaken for thinking you're describing a central bank of agriculture as its main mandate. No. The central bank's mandate is price stability, financial stability, the payment systems, the foreign reserves to ensure the value of our legal tender, and advising the federal government as a banker to the government and as a financial advisor. Five mandates. There is a provision in the Central Bank Act that allows the central bank to invest in development finance projects. As a deputy governor, one of the members of the board of directors of the central bank, a member of the committee of governors of the bank, I was actually in charge of development finance as deputy governor for financial stability for 3 years. So, and we used this provision to do our own form of what we call quantitative easing after the global financial crisis, to inject money into the economy to stabilize it. And we did fairly well. And so there is scope for the central bank to get involved in these types of things. But it's about proportion. The reason why the central bank can get involved in these things is that we are not the Bank of England. We're a developing country. We still have developmental challenges. And there's nothing wrong if the central bank plays a certain critical role in that universe, but not as the only player, or not even as the dominant player, But if it now comes to what we're seeing today, a former head of state called me and asked me, Kingsley, you were a central banker. I said, yes, sir. He said, can you answer a question for me? why does it seem as if the central bank is everywhere, doing everything, intervening in every sector of the economy? I said, sir, it's a reflection of state failure. Period. It's a reflection of the failure of state capacity. Where is the Federal Ministry of Finance? Where is the Federal Ministry of Agriculture? Where is the Federal Ministry of, you name it? Why does it have to be the central bank in front of everything? It's because the fiscal aspect of running the government is simply insolvent. They cannot do anything. So every problem, call the central bank governor. Every problem, call the central bank governor. So it's a reflection of dysfunction in the management of the economy. And that's why, despite all the billions and trillions spent, by the way, this government is being kept afloat by the central bank to start with. The ways and means lending that the central bank does to the government is to the tune of about 13 trillion in the last few years. That is an illegality. Because the Central Bank Act says very clearly that you cannot lend ways and means to the government more than 5% of the previous year's revenues. Who cares? So things that are reflections of dysfunction or failure of state capacity cannot be presented to an educated and informed and experienced person like myself as if they are successes. They can fool some people, but not me, because I know where we should be going.
All right, Prof, we're almost out of time now, but let me get your thoughts on the fuel pump price increase, a proposed fuel pump price increase. Is this a good time? What do you think?
It's a very difficult time to do it. But you see, the government has boxed itself into a corner. When you manage your economy so incompetently that you're now spending more than 90 kobo of every 1 naira you earn paying back debt, you have very little scope for maneuver. And one of the people you're borrowing from is the IMF and the World Bank. You've opened yourself up for a policy pressure from them on you as an informal conditionality before you can get any more money to survive. So if they tell you you must remove your subsidies, well, what choice have you? So, but why did we get into this problem in the first place? These subsidies should have been removed a long time ago. When the previous government tried to remove it, a lot of the people today who are the people in power opposed them. Today, every few years, they tell us they've removed subsidy. Then it reappears again. First of all, so there's dishonesty in communication to the Nigerian public. So the reason that these subsidies should have been removed a long time ago is that they have contributed to the dysfunction in the economy. You are subsidizing consumption. You're not subsidizing production. So, but the question about timing, is this the best time? That's a delicate question. And I'm not sure this is the time for it. But in principle, it should have been done a long time ago. It's because of economic populism. If this government had removed those subsidies when they came in immediately and had a lot of political capital, we would have been better off, because eventually demand and supply will balance out the price. But it takes time. Look at what happened to GSM. When NITEL was scrapped, privatized, and all of that, the cost of SIM cards were almost up to 40,000. Today, a SIM card is almost nothing. Demand and supply will take care of a lot of things. But we have a government that is very statist in its economic thinking. And they're not competent in their statism. You can be statist, but you have to have one, a very capable bureaucracy. You have to have two, clear economic philosophy, aligning that statism. China is running a what they call state capitalism. Do you understand? How many governments in this world can do that? But they have a bureaucracy that is strong, competent, but at the same time developing their private sector. We don't have state capacity in Nigeria.
Well, speaking of development, your book, Emerging Africa, British economist Paul Collier wrote, Africans seriously analyzing Africa's opportunities are all too rare. Now, with this kind of position, could you talk to us about these opportunities within Africa and the challenges facing us as Africans?
Absolutely. Africa faces a challenge of development. they actually think mistakenly that they face a challenge of economic growth. There's a slight difference between economic growth and economic development. There is a continuum of three things: economic development, which is human development, healthcare, education, clean potable water, life expectancy. You understand? Then you have economic growth, which is a reflection of a combination of the production of goods and services every year, right? Then you have structural economic transformation. So there are three levels. We have left human development, which is development, and jumped straight to economic growth. They'll tell us our economy is growing at 6%, 7, 10%, and we are clapping. But there's no electricity. 4,000 megawatts of electricity for 200 million people. But South Africa has 50 million people and 60,000 megawatts of electricity. Indonesia has 210 million people and they have 120,000 megawatts of electricity. So we're getting our priorities wrong. We say we're building infrastructure, but that we have 14 million kids out of school. We don't have basic health care. So we're getting, you see, that's why you need a leader, a president from 2023 who clearly understands these things and can assemble a team and guide that team and work with that team to go back to the basics. We need development. We need skills. We need our young people to be able to be skilled, to be able to create jobs so that we solve the problem of unemployment. We cannot have jobless economic growth, which is what we've had for many, many years.
Just before we go, let's talk about the IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu issue, which is quite a topic of conversation.
Yes.
Now, in 2017, you wrote, "You may disagree with Nnamdi Kanu and his IPOB followers, but nature abhors a vacuum."
Yes.
The young man also stepped into the gap of the leadership failure of the distinguished Igbo elite itself, which until recently was unable to move beyond self-seeking to demand justice for their people inside a united Nigeria.
Absolutely.
With that kind of statements, do you agree with the president when he said that Nnamdi Kanu should be made to answer for his actions?
The law is the law. I said what I said. You may disagree. I don't believe in secession. Clear. That's my position. I do not believe that the Southeast should break out of Nigeria. But that doesn't mean that I cannot recognize some of the inequities and some of the marginalizations that drive some people to push that kind of agenda. And that's why I said what you need as president in 2023 is a president that can be inclusive, bring the whole of Nigeria together, treat people fairly, different parts of the country, so that all these agitations for secession become unattractive. People should be seeing their opportunity in Nigeria, not resenting the identity of being a Nigerian. Everybody in Nigeria today, practically, has retreated to their ethnic identity. This is bad for nation building. And that's why you need a nation builder with experience, such as me, to come to leadership in 2023. Because there is a way to repair this fracture. And I would like to do so. But the laws are the laws. We have the Constitution as it is today. We have also the right, some people will assert, the right to self-determination. But the right to self-determination is absolute when it is external oppression. Let's say colonialism. That's why a lot of countries, all the countries that were colonies, became independent, because their right to self-determination was supported by the United Nations. But the laws also show that within a sovereign state, the right to self-determination is conditional on the Constitution. That's why in Spain, the Catalonia has not been able to break away from Spain. In Quebec, they did not break away. But what happened was that there was a mature political response, especially in Canada, and there was a negotiation. French became an official language as a concession to them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is what has been missing in Nigeria. You have people who believe, they say they believe in one Nigeria, but for them, one Nigeria only means their own entitled view of one Nigeria, and some other people don't matter. That generates resistance. We need leadership that is above, beyond tribe, beyond religion, a leadership that can bring everyone together.
Since you mentioned the One Nigeria issue, let me ask you this final question. If you become president, how would you address the issue of restructuring? Plus, tied to it is the VAT controversy. How would you address that?
Yeah. I am a federalist. I think my views are well known. We will canvass public opinion when it comes to constitutional restructuring. Majority of people in Nigeria today want the country restructured back to a proper federalism. That means that regions or states earn their revenues, keep it, and contribute a part of it to the center. That's the way it should be. It should not be the federal government owning oil or other natural resource revenues and then distributing to everybody else. That stands the concept of federalism on its head. So, but we have to manufacture consensus. It's not something you can do by force. It's not even the president who will restructure. It's a legislative function. So but the president has leadership, overall leadership responsibility to drive a vision. The reason there is no progress on restructuring in Nigeria today is because the president doesn't want it. He's very dismissive of it. You see? But many people, even in the North, are calling for constitutional restructuring.
How about the VAT controversy?
The VAT controversy should be solved in accordance to federal principles and decisions of the law courts. Simple.
Very well then, Professor Kingsley Moghalu, thank you very much for coming to speak with us on Political Paradigm.
Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Well, that's Political Paradigm today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.